Hi, I'm Catherine Bennett and welcome to the Cyber Chat studio. In this episode, I'm joined by the incredible Daniel Oxley, Chief Technology Officer at Armadillo. I am going to let him properly introduce himself to you all, but I wanted to start by saying that we worked together at a previous organisation and we were pretty much the dream team, weren't we?
Yeah, these were good times. They were, yeah, loved it. Really good times. Yeah, so first of all, thanks for having me on. So Daniel, Chief Technology Officer at Armadillo. It's been, I think it's about a year and a half, I think, since we joined. It's been a long time.
Year, hasn't it?
Yeah, very busy, yeah.
But it's lovely to have you on board. I know that obviously we're going to go into a little bit of tech in a second. I've got lots and lots of questions to ask you. But firstly, I wanted to see how competitive you were. And I'm going to do a little challenge here. So a little bit later on, I'm going to do another quick competition for any of our listeners or followers who want to win a free Under Armour hoodie. But I have a couple of Cockney rhyming slang. So I don't know how good you are, but I've got a couple here, a couple of easy ones and a couple more difficult ones.
My mum's from East Ham, my dad's from Dagenham. So whilst that's not quite the true definition of Cockney, I'd like to think that I can get some of them. Right, let's have a go. Right,
so first one, apples and pears. Nice, easy one.
Stairs, nice and easy. Yeah, my dad used to shout, "Get up those apples and pears." At bedtime.
Ascot races, again, I know obviously where you currently live, so Ascot races, nice easy one.
Well, I'm missing its face, isn't it? But that would be boat race.
It's braces.
Oh, well, okay, I've only got one of them.
A little bit more difficult for you, Aunt Joanna.
Okay, yeah, I'm going to do terrible at this one, I think. Aunt Joanna Spanner?
No, see, I thought it would have rhymed, but it's actually a piano for some strange reason. That's a bit bizarre one, but the others do rhyme. So, a baker's dozen.
Well, a baker's dozen is 13.
Correct.
Right, okay.
But in this case, it's cousin. So, baker's dozen, cousin.
Oh, okay.
Rubble.
Barney Rubble, trouble.
Yep.
I knew that one.
Marvin.
Hank Marvin is starving.
Yep, and the last one, Jimmy Riddle.
Fiddle. Oh, cool. So he's playing the Jimmy Riddle.
Fiddle.
Yeah, fiddle.
Yeah. So well done. You did very, very well there.
Right. 3 of those, yeah.
So a little bit less of obviously the Cockney rhyming slang there. Moving into cybersecurity, I guess that, the first thing that I really, really like to hear about is how did you start your journey into cybersecurity, and what do you like about it, really?
Okay, I mean, that's an interesting one. My background, you could say, certainly started with IT ops. So I went down a fairly traditional route, IT help desk, second line support, third line support up from there. In terms of actual security, I've never really seen them as separate worlds, IT ops and IT security, and I think that's more so now than ever because, the actions taken in one influence the other. So what would be a traditional IT ops function of patching or configuration very much provides security in the business, and it might be the security team which is measuring against it. So I've always blurred them together, but I mean, to answer your question, how did I start? I worked for a Dutch bank. Actually, no, before that, my first job, I was teaching Microsoft Office in a small business near me that my uncle ran. And that was my very first start. I had a ponytail back then, and it was a long time ago. And then I started working in London and slowly moved up. I did banking for a few years. Then I actually moved to Spain, lived in Madrid for a while. I was at Microsoft. Transferred internally at Microsoft. Then I was freelance back in the UK, then through Tanium, where I met you, and obviously now I'm here at Armadillo.
Interesting. So fluent in Spanish, or?
Indeed. Well, it's the only way to be if I want to know why I'm in trouble.
That fascinates you. So many people tend to either fall into it or drop into it, or some people obviously have that kind of that interest from early on. So
it was a hobby for me. It was, my parents, when I was young, my parents, what do you want to do when you're older? What do you want to do a degree? And what do you want to do this? And I was always, I don't know. Absolutely don't know. The IT part of me was always a hobby, computer programming and hardware and electronics, all of that. It was just a hobby. And of course, what better way is there to earn a living than doing something you actually really enjoy?
Absolutely, because I think you have to do it for so long that if you don't do something you're passionate about or like, then, and I think that's one of the things that I like about cybersecurity, because it's so fast paced, it's changing, there are so many different things to learn.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people like to say they're experts in across the board, but I think normally you kind of specialize in different areas. But very fascinating. So I know a couple of these, but I think everyone would like to hear. What do you like to do in your own spare time, outside of work? Do you have any hobbies or interests, things that kind of allow you to get a bit of downtime outside of work?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's having a family always takes up a huge amount of time, and a dog as well. I think the one constant thing was always the technology. I never saw it as a hobby. I've never been a person to read the manual or RTFM or anything like that. It's something I would play around, build computers, take things apart, much to my parents' disgust. Or I once took my brother's computer apart. I don't know if you'll ever see this podcast, but he bought himself a computer back in, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago almost, and I took it to pieces when no one was at home and put it back together. But always wanting to look inside how things worked. I love traveling. We have a bucket list where we're trying to see all the wonders of the world, and we're halfway through the list at the moment, and that takes up a huge amount of time. And of course, family. Sail, I'm a terrible sailor, but I spend most of the time capsized, but I try and do that a bit as well.
So where's next on the bucket list? Where are you planning on going to next?
So we need to work out how to see Mount Everest. So we're seeing the natural wonders of the world. So, and the current plan, obviously, we're not going to climb Mount Everest. We're doing it as a family. So one of the options is a visit base camp, which might be a bit tricky. Another one is you can go to Bhutan, and then you can do a flying trip around Everest, which is a thought. It's a bit of it's a bucket list item to do. It's a bit of a pipe dream at the moment, but I'm very determined to see everything on that list.
Well, it's always good. It's good to have a bucket list. Good to have a dream to kind of
absolutely.
So one thing that perhaps maybe nobody would know about yourself, an interesting fact or claim to fame, maybe.
Okay, maybe one not to be so proud of. I have no computing qualifications whatsoever. I actually got a U for my computer science A-level. I was utterly non-academic at school. I didn't pay attention. I'm not bragging, I found it too easy. And I just totally tuned out. To say that, I do now have a university degree. I did go back via Open University. I think you might have done something similar, and I got my degree now. But at the time, I think I probably put a few grey hairs on my parents' heads.
Made up for it ever since. Look at that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I don't usually. My son knows, obviously. He's going through his A-levels now, and he knows about my computer science. I don't usually. I've gone and shared it now with everyone, but I don't usually make too much noise about it.
And in kind of, I suppose, moving into the future, where do you see yourself in sort of 5 or maybe even 10 years' time? Do you have kind of a plan that you want to get to, aspirations? Where do you kind of see things in the future, really?
So look, Kathy, I've never had a plan ever in my life. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was growing up. When I got my first job, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just got into a help desk role because I knew I could answer the questions, sort of thing. All I know is it will be around technology. It will be around something to do with computers. I have no idea what it is. I like the sort of the excitement of not knowing about it. Maybe it will be in sunnier climes again. Who knows? But the one thing I always sort of am happy with is intentionally not making a plan. I think I'll be one of these people that will struggle to retire. I certainly got a few years to go, but
what will be will be. I think it's quite nice.
Absolutely.
sometimes I think if we deviate from our master plan, and sometimes you can get a little bit disheartened. So I think it's quite nice to see where things kind of take you in the future, really. So
Definitely.
no, thank you so much. So I guess moving into the real reason why we're here, cybersecurity and obviously where we sit within that kind of wider space. Tell us a little bit about your current role and, what that consists of, perhaps maybe the wider plan. I know there are some things that you're, I don't want to steal your thunder. There's a few things that obviously you're building out, but I'd love to kind of hear about your journey, what you're currently doing in your role, and where you see the kind of priorities.
Sure. Okay. So Armadillo is a partner business. We offer managed services, professional services, as well as your standard software reselling. Look, it's a very competitive market, as I'm sure you know. There's hundreds, if not thousands, of partner businesses in the UK. So where we try and differentiate ourselves, and one thing that I've really tried to focus on is being that different partner. Okay. Yeah. So we offer some of the services. We're building some services at the moment which are really focused on providing value to a business, especially around things like IT hygiene, visibility as well. We've got an amazing portfolio. We've got an amazing client list as well, and we're working really hard on actually bringing value rather than just being another Microsoft reseller or something else. We go to market, and we're just about to launch a new service, which is called Armadillo Protect, where every day I'm talking to customers and prospects, and a lot of the conversations are very much centered around the same thing. It's they're all security related, but it's things like getting the basics right. What devices do you have connected to your network, or why can't you get higher patching and things like that. And a lot of the times we talk to a customer and I hate to use the phrase trusted advisor, and I still need to come up with a better one for it. But when you're in that position of trust where you can sit down with customers and we talk roadmap, or we offer architecture sessions, which are one of my favorite things to do, where all I say to them is provide a pen and provide a whiteboard, and let's walk through your roadmap and your stack, and we talk about what the industry is doing and what the other businesses in the market are doing as well. And a lot of the time, the customers are focused on, we need $1 million firewalls, we need advanced this and ML and deep learning that and everything else, which is absolutely true. Yeah. But often they can close down probably 50% of their threat if they look at the fundamentals, the basics. What are the machines on their network? How are they patching? Are they able to do instant vulnerability scans? And so we've built a service very much around that piece where, to be sort of blunt, the customer can offload that pain. They can offload it to me, and we'll actually take it and run with it, and that make it successful. Yeah. One of the things we're always trying to do is make a customer proactive instead of constantly reactive. Now, that's not to say all of the, you as well, you're seeing all of the threats, all of the products on the market as well. It's not to say that we're not looking at that side as well. Yeah. But what I often say to a customer is just start small, make change, get the basics right, and then everything else, you're building a good foundation and everything else is happening. And I've mentioned a few that could be the patching or the visibility, but also something as valuable as DMARC. If you can get to a DMARC reject, which is obviously, there's a journey involved there, but I saw a statistic recently that something like 70% of all domains in the UK don't have DMARC enabled, and yet the value we can give to a business is absolutely enormous. And those are the conversations of proving value, distinguishing ourselves from everyone else, which is what I always try and focus on. I'm not in sales, so when I'm telling a customer my opinion, it's driven from a perspective of doing the right thing ethically, as well as the right thing in value for the customer and the technology.
Yeah. And I think it's quite nice to be, well, as you mentioned earlier, that trusted advisor. If you're talking, if you're vendor agnostic and you're kind of going in there and saying, what are your pain points? What are your requirements? What are the things that you're looking, what's top of mind? I think sometimes that opens up a more valuable conversation than just hey, can we talk about this product? Can we talk about that vendor, and so on and so on?
100%, absolutely. It's not about bringing in the POs and hitting the number. Of course, those are absolutely fundamental, and And being in the leadership of business, I've always got my eye on the financial part. But the way I was always schooled was, if you do the right thing by the customer always, if you're prepared to say no rather than just throw your hat in and try and close those POs quickly, you build a relationship and then the business will come.
Yeah.
Okay? And that, to me, the reputation is absolutely fundamental. It's so easy to blow a reputation, and yet it could take you weeks, months, years to build one. And Armadillo is, we are a small business, but we've been in the market 22 years, I think. So, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
There's absolutely a reason for it. And the businesses trust the brand because, my boss, Mark, and the team, they spend a huge amount of time just on that relationship piece. We do a huge amount of things, complementary services that we don't charge for, because if we're proving our value to the customer, when it comes to it and they look at other partners, they will, Armadillo, they're the only ones that came into the office. They're the only ones that sat down with us, understood the business.
Yeah.
They turned down the chance to bid on an RFP because they didn't think they could give a good value. And that's a point of pride that I've always taken.
Yeah, and business is built on relationship, right? We buy from people, and it's those people that
buy from people. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we obviously, from today's point of view, we're talking about the importance of cyber hygiene, or IT hygiene. What do we mean by that? I mean, obviously, if I was to say to my mum, for example, we're talking about cyber hygiene, she'd probably say, what, showers and washing and things like that. That's kind of not quite what we mean. How would you kind of define it, and how would you start a conversation with a customer?
Right. So this is a really good one. So how would I define it first? So when I talk about cyber hygiene, I drop the cyber part and I drop the IT and the security. And actually, what I talk about is the fundamentals, and it starts really basic. And there's some amazing technology out there that can help you with these things. And by basic, what I mean is, well, let's start with what's connected to your network. Okay, because if you don't know what's on your network, then how can you protect against it? Okay. If you've got, and I use an analogy of a house. So if you don't know what's protected to your network, it's like leaving a window open. It's like leaving a front door open, and you might have bars on the windows and guard dogs in the garden, but you went and left the front window open, or the front door rather. Okay. Knowing what's on the network. And then once you know what's on the network, what is it? What does it do? What's it running? Is it patched? Do a vulnerability scan against it? Does it meet your requirements for ISO 27001 or NIST, or how does it map to your MITRE framework? And then everything flows from there. Now you know about it, you need to manage it. And once you manage it, and that management is end to end, it's cradle to grave, to use a cliche. And that's what really allows you to understand the business, okay, to understand all of those devices, all the software that's installed. As new patches or updates are released, you can instantly go in, find out what's your exposure to them.
Yeah.
If you think about the Bluekeep or WannaCry or Conflict, going back a little bit in time, some of the problem of why those took so long to go away is because businesses didn't really know their exposure to it. Log4j is another perfect example. Something as simple as a CMDB or a catalogue of everything you've got is huge. Okay, it's immense value. So how do I start those conversations? Well, sometimes I might just start with, how much faith do you place in your CMDB? And the answers will vary from, they might laugh and say none, no faith in our CMDB, or 50%. No one has ever said to me that they have complete faith in their CMDB. Okay, and that's quite ironic, because they're spending a lot of money on their CMDBs. Okay, they're spending a lot of money on inventories. They've got various tools to do it, and then they don't trust the data. But what that actually teaches, or taught me, it is that the tools are failing, but also that the failure of those tools breeds apathy. And the apathy is, I don't trust it. I've only got 75% visibility, and so on. Or we're doing network scanning, but it's a layer 4 scan or layer 3 scan, things like that. So we can't pick up these IoT devices and so on. Well, The thing is, there's tools out there to do it. Something like Sepio, for example, that's a network detection tool. It's layer one. It's talking to the switch. It's looking at how voltage and impedance runs across your wires to actually understand what's going on. I mean, I call them mic drop products. The idea being is that you show the customer or the prospect that you show them the possibility.
Yeah.
They've got an existing solution, and then you show them the new ones way up here what they could do, and it usually leaves them speechless. Deep Instinct is another one.
Yeah.
Forget malware detection. That's really old because it's too late. If you're detecting it, it means you've already been compromised normally. What about malware prevention with an engine that's never updated? Tanium, you and I work there both, and real-time visibility, regardless of where the solution is or the endpoint is, those types of technology can actually make a difference to a business, and they're not as expensive as customers think. So what I love to do when I'm talking about these things is using a whiteboard sessions. We just talk technology. Okay, we talk about how can I discover in an OT environment.
Yeah.
How can I find out in my factory if someone's ever plugged a rubber ducky or a fake keyboard into a manufacturing robot, or they put a Raspberry Pi. You can search online easily of finding examples, the fish tank, and I think in Atlanta, and NASA, JPL with the Raspberry Pis and so on. All of those would not have been news if IT Hygiene was being looked at. And that really, it's a bit of a bugbear of mine. I won't rant. I'll spare you the rant on it. But what I'd really love to do is solve that for businesses, because then everything else is so much easier to do.
Yeah. It is the fundamental, isn't it, to all of it? If you're not looking after things, it leaves you quite exposed. So my question back to you would be, in terms of the service that you're building and what you're trying to achieve, would you say that it's aimed at, just enterprise customers? Does it range across the board? Is it expensive? Tell us a little bit about the kind of the solution that you're building there at Armadillo, and, how how it would appeal and what the benefits are to end users.
Absolutely. So we've not launched it yet. We're very, very close now. The marketing team, there's a bit of a nudge here to them, is just finishing the collateral so we can go for a big launch on it. So under the brand name of Armadillo Protect, what we're offering to a customer is solving these problems for them. So it's powered by a few technologies, but we can solve their patching problem, their vulnerability problem, their malware prevention. We can solve their asset inventory, their network discovery. We can solve all of these issues for them in a few ways. So we can take it on as a full managed service where we have the console access. They just deploy the lightweight agent, and that's out in their environment. It's working. And of course, as with any managed service, they consume the reports and understand it. But of course, these are live reports. Every time it's a web page they can go into, and it gives them instant data. It's not a monthly report, the last 30 days, how many patches we deployed, anything like that. They can go in, they'll get an instant view. So if something like Log4j arose again, they can scratch their head. What's our exposure to Log4j in the console? And there's the answer. Okay. We also offer it as a co-managed service, which is where the customer manages it themselves, and we offer it with the support wrapper, or perhaps potentially they might just want to take on the management themselves. But we've built it on Tanium, we've built it on Deep Instinct, and there's some other pieces coming in there in the future soon. But what we're not doing, we're not trying to sign customers up to a 3-year deal, huge initial outlay. It's a subscription service on a Netflix model. You can ramp up and ramp down as you see fit, because we're so confident in the results that we'll be able to give to the customers that once a customer signs up, I'll take patching as an example, whatever their patching success is now, let's say it's 85, 90% patching success, we'll drastically improve that, or we won't charge them for it. And that's the confidence we've got in it, because we know we can make it. And so we can go, if you want to sign up with one single endpoint, we'll manage that for you. It might not be super cost efficient for you, but we'll do that. We'll go to the bottom of the market all the way up to the biggest names which are in the business. We've built this out of we built an entire data center ready for this. we've got the marketing collateral ready to go, and we've got, I've got huge faith, huge plans for what this service is going to offer. And I hope it does really well in the market.
Brilliant. That sounds very exciting, and I'm looking forward to what marketing have in store for everybody. Probably my last question, I guess, to yourself is, obviously you've got a lot of experience from, both working for a vendor, a partner, different technologies. Are there any lessons that you've kind of learned in moving from, say, like a big vendor to a partner? And also, does it give you, I've come perhaps maybe the opposite way. I've come from obviously a partner to a vendor, and I think sometimes working for an individual partner gives you so much more sort of variety. You have the option then to go in and start talking about lots of different technologies, whereas sometimes, working for just one particular vendor, although your products inside and out, you can be quite restricted. So any sort of lessons that you've learned, anything that you prefer, don't prefer, or just differences really, I guess, in moving across the industry?
Absolutely. So, I mean, that's an easy one for me to answer, Kathy. So, it's value. Okay. The value that, some customers will look at business and say, well, you're only small. What can you offer me compared to the enormous ones? Well, it's really the understanding. We'll take the time to understand the business. Okay. We'll know your team. We'll sit with you. Just because we're small, that's not detrimental. If anything, that's an absolute value to us, because you're not talking to Bob one day and then Sarah the next day and then John and then anyone else. My sales team and our leadership team, we know each of these accounts, each of the people in them, and the value that we can give to them is that personal touch. It's a very white glove service. Long before we've tried to sell you anything, we've just built up a relationship and a rapport with you. And that's a journey or a path which we've taken with you, and there's no rush in that. Okay. We'll meet you, we'll sit with you and understand you, because, as you said earlier, people buy from people. And if we can demonstrate the value we've got, then you'll demonstrate the faith you have in us by doing business with us. And so the biggest lesson I've always learned, I was at Microsoft. I was one of 95,000 people in the company, which was great. It was a fantastic company to work for. I learned a lot, but you really are just a number.
Yeah.
And now I'm here at Armadillo, which is the opposite end of the scale, but it's a very different ethic. But with the customers, the value. And so, when a customer's spending money on professional services or a managed service, they're spending a lot of money. Okay. It's a big budget item. It always is and it always will be. So they want to know that they're getting absolute value, maximum value for it. And, there's what I always say to my engineers and to the customer as well. You might ask us a question about a product and we might not know the answer immediately.
Yeah.
The difference being is we'll tell you that, and then we'll go away and get the answer and we'll come back. Okay. We'll understand your business. We'll always go the extra mile because we have to keep demonstrating the value that we have over and above what an alternative partner might do for your business. And that to me is what really, that's what makes me get up in the morning. That's what makes me want to do this job. Seeing the successes come in, seeing the wins that the team can get, the satisfaction is what really drives me, and that's what I love doing.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think it's exactly the same as you. I think the value of having a smaller set of vendors to really concentrate on and going all in with those can make all the difference versus, working with, hundreds of thousands of vendors and just being reactive to a customer's requirements. So I definitely see value in a partner like Armadillo and adding.
Absolutely. And when I joined Armadillo, we had 142 products on the portfolio, which of course, at the end of the day, you want this breadth of possibilities for business, but it makes it impossible for people to specialize or to even understand every single one of these products. So we've shrunk that list.
Yeah.
But we haven't taken anything off the portfolio. So if we're talking to customers, if the customer absolutely wants to buy that product, well, okay, we'll sell it to you. But what I'd love to do with the customer is have a conversation. What is it you're trying to achieve? It's a bit of a cliche, what are your use cases? What are your requirements? But it's true. Yeah. Talk to me about what you're trying to achieve. And then because we're agnostic, we'll marry up the right technology and the right solution for your needs, but also for your price point. And that's where, again, these architecture sessions that we do is where a lot of these conversations come out from. So we're agnostic. We'll find you the right solution. And I'll even give you my personal opinion on a product, on a service. And what we've done is we've chosen in each of the sectors, each of the technologies, we've chosen our preferences. And those are based on the technology, not the commission that we would get or the size of the order value. We've chosen it based on how good that technology is and how confident we are that the customer will come back and say, that solution that we purchased from you absolutely solved it for us. You know, one of those mic drop moments.
Absolutely. And do you know what? I think we need more armadillos or more companies like Armadillos to kind of push that message. And I do honestly believe that a lot of security managers or IT managers appreciate that kind of value added service rather than, you know, kind of what price can you do, what price can you match?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we can't compete with the biggest ones because it becomes a race to the bottom on price. Okay. And I'd rather demonstrate value that proves why we're worth spending the money with over and above just a large volume transactional partner. Okay, we'll never compete. Where we can compete and prove and distinguish ourselves is with that relationship, that value add.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much. It's been absolutely fascinating talking about
pleasure.
This. I can't wait for it to be released. Just quickly before I finish the episode, though, I do have a question that I would like to ask all of our followers. Everything that we've covered today, I will give further details below as well, so that obviously Dan can share exactly some exciting news that's obviously coming up. One question I do have for the option of winning a co-branded Under Armour and CyberChat Studio hoodie, I'd like to ask the question, who was the inventor of a computer program called Creeper back in the 1970s? And no, Dan's not going to spoil the answer.
I know the answer, though.
And they are now called the father of cybersecurity. So leave your answer below and I will pick one lucky individual and announce it at the next episode. I know you know the answer, but thank you so much for joining me today. It has been a
pleasure. Thank you.
Interesting. Loved working with you previously, and I'm sure we'll do another episode in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks very much.
Thanks again. Cheers. Bye.